I have some opinions. And as much as that's a dangerous word to use here in current media senses, this is just my current view on how the situation's going on WWE over the release of Drew Gulak, over the loss of a premier piece of the women's division out of pregnancy things, out of pregnancy circumstances. Still, congrats to Becky Lynch. No one's gonna denounce her on having a child and bringing a new child into the world, even though it's in probably the toughest part of the world to this day. But still, we're in a big step here in the WWE where we have somebody like Otis being a Money in the Bank winner. And the first thing he does on SmackDown is still be pseudo comedic relief, but somewhat be a threat for Braun Strowman, doing a psych out fake attack behind the back so we can cash in for the world title, while Braun Strowman was still in the ring when Mandy Rose was coming as a distraction of sorts. But it faked into a celebration and of a sort of joke. I know they're trying to tease Otis not being probably untrustworthy by the views of Braun Strowman. So, yeah, I sort of get it. So those are currently the most interesting things to happen on WWE at this point. Nothing about WWE intrigues me over the course of the past year and a half of me reviewing it, because I've barely had any sorts of reviews that entertain me or any other type of episodes that entertain me. These are just my current thoughts on the so-called product of WWE. We've sold out this much into getting high stakes crowds, always big crowds, excited always for their favorite wrestlers, either being the major main eventers or at least being a huge mid card act to anybody that we think is good from the indies. We can push into the main event spot, and it sucks in this sort of circumstance way because now all I do is expect less. I expect less every time I review Raw or even watch Raw or even try to wait for a pay-per-view, because, uh, God, I hate WWE, but I still love it, because I have so much of a fond memory during my childhood with it, that I just can't let it go, and it sucks, because, the views that they have now, they're trying to push runs into somebody like Jinder Mahal, that at least had a bit of a comeback story for being part of, like, a jobber group into being part of the main event scene. Biggest comeback story I've ever knew. Drew McIntyre using the same thing as well, but at least he had more higher expectations than Jinder, that was coming literally from the bottom to the top in no time flat. Now he's pushing to probably going to be a singles threat for the world title soon, as soon as he's back in like singles competition. Because currently all we're getting is just goddamn promos involving how great it is after a multi-month injury to see the great Maharaja back after literally shipping for the jobber title, I mean the 24/7 title, for the past several months. The time when it was still relevant. Now we had Rob Gronkowski holding it. Even thanks to the pandemic, we can't do a lot of stuff. So, that sucks. Over the promos, most of the titles not shown as prestigious. Who even knew since October to now that Bayley was women's champion? Or at least held it for that long to begin with. It kind of sucks in that equivalency, don't you? The pay-per-views have been completely shuttled down because of the pandemic, but it's not even beyond the point, because with no pandemic, I think fans would still be having less expectations. Mike Tyson, Iron Mike Tyson, the most notable thing he did in WWE was, of course, to build to Stone Cold Steve Austin to being world champion. And now he's off to AEW to make that show feel legit. We're off with Rob Gronkowski, injury-prone wrestlers, a firing squad of talent, and depleting sagging ratings after having Edge return after a near-decade absence from active wrestling, Rey Mysterio returning, Drew McIntyre looking like a goddamn Hulk, Brock Lesnar still active, the women's division taken seriously, and all the money WWE could use, and they're still going to make a pay-per-view look like you're watching main event. it's just these. It's just these thoughts that I just rattle off my mind, and yes, this is something to get off my chest. Because if you know, I already whine and bitch like this already whenever I watch Raw or SmackDown, and I review it to share with you my thoughts and what happened that night. But it's really torturous. I don't feel happy every time I review Raw or SmackDown, and every time I watch AEW or I review NWA Power that I should get back on. I really want to get back on NWA, and the AEW review will be coming out shortly. Uh, it's just tough. It's just tough to feel like I'm having enjoyment watching this, and this can go for a lot of fans that even do this on a consistent basis. Because through just one calendar year, you can already see fans already trying to not Google WWE, get the network, watch the wrestling shows, get the toys, get all this crap that you're seeing more grown men, and still more of the adult demographic phase into something that's strictly been uh, transitioned more to the younger demographic, and still grown men paying to watch more entertaining content than the actual children that care less and would rather watch something more exciting. Not their fault. It's WWE's fault. Vince is just selling out so we can get more of the sponsorships, more of the Saudi blood money, and all this crap. WWE would be in the absolute shitter. And that's one of my most unpopular opinions. If it wasn't for all the money and all the selling out and good business moves Vince does, WWE would be in the straight shitter if it was just Raw or SmackDown airing. No NXT, no pay-per-views, none of that Saudi shit. They would be dead. Completely dead. And that's just my thought, and I hate saying that. I really hate saying that. Because now there's different shows that people could watch that are coming down your throats. Most people are not even viewing, or even the third-hour mark is getting a huge blow, especially thanks to the huge loss of attendance, playing a factor that most of your shows feel cringe. And thanks to nothing else happening around the ring, the commentary still speak about nothing. Thanks just no crowds or anything to even do anything. They didn't even go more on the cinematic route, even though WWE been pushing that since WrestleMania. And there's still no contents of storylines, even though they completely shredded down the roster to the teeth back in last month. So this is just a shred of how much fans really have this much of a low expectations for the WWE, and it doesn't surprise me. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. I have absolute faith that these guys could actually make something of themselves and build themselves up so they can, have something to remember of being a professional wrestler, but not in the WWE. Not in the WWE. I'm sure the Cologne still have a contract. Jason Storton still has a contract. Nia Jax still has a contract. The Iconics still have a contract. Rey Mysterio's contract is about to expire. Samoa Joe still hasn't asked for his release over the BS they've made him do. And Vince not having any pride on his business actually doing well, thinks he's better off taking a foreign country that had more BS happen to him than whatever hell happens backstage in WWE. And they can't even get their top guy that made their show somewhat relevant from back in the early 2010s out of CM Punk to still be an active wrestler. CM Punk has pride in himself, at least. I hate WWE at times, and I hate saying it. I hate saying that over this overrated BS, uncharacteristic, just raw athletic roster that only has its somewhat charm coming from its awkward BS and it's just technical freestyle wrestling that's just indie-rific, and it completely shuts out the crowd because we know how predictable the finish or a near fall is going to be like at all. There's no hype factor anymore, and it just sucks. It completely suckles out the factor that you're actually watching a cool weekly show. You're just watching WWE, and that's just it. Nothing about the brand split feels fun. What tells SmackDown and Raw apart other than just being Raw and SmackDown? Completely it. Raw had the women's division, SmackDown had the cruiserweights. Now everything is nearly the same. And for these times, WWE trying to make these dumbass loopholes to know that none of these guys are actually making themselves in our own separate shows that we made. Again. And still, our ratings are depleting because we don't know fucking nothing except selling out. So it's just, wow. Really, really great WWE. But I just want to get this out of my system. This is why I think me and you hate the show. How WWE been producing themselves for the past decade. How depleting most of. I stopped watching like late 2008, 2009, and then of course I started watching back in 2010 because I thought something was going to change. For God's sakes, I think many people thought that, like part of Nexus and of course CM Punk. That's when fans started watching. I think when some parts of my family started watching when the Shield came back. Started up because we actually had something badass to watch, and now we don't have that, and it sucks. I mean, I have faith in Drew McIntyre, Otis, Elias, Seth Rollins, Asuka. All these people are wonderful wrestlers, and they're entirely gifted in their own way. But over how the product's going to produce, they need a lot more if they're willing to bring themselves back into the mainstream. And that's just my opinion. And I just wish WWE would actually try to make the show watchable. At most of my reviews, I just skim most of the fat more than getting into complete detail. So that's it coming from me. Like, comment, subscribe, and see how you feel about the current product of WWE.